Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of International Corner. It's the international break actually is just over. We are getting back into the league. We got a big game ahead. Roma are home. But here with me, I've got my usual guest, my usual mate of many adventures, Richard Hall. How are you, Richard?
I'm super excited today because this is a big one for me. So from my
Obviously,
childhood all over.
obviously Richard is not talking about, just spending some time with me and with you guys. We have a special guest today. You might remember him as somebody who came here at Inter, scored 40 goals, won the first UEFA Cup for the club, for the nerazzurri. He is now in LA, but he's actually German. Do you get that? It's Jürgen Klinsmann. Hello,
Yes.
Jürgen.
Yeah, hello everybody. How are you?
We're doing great. How are you? Sorry for getting you up out of the bed so early. Maybe you do already get up out so early. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm an early morning riser. No problem at all. So I get up at 6 o'clock. No problem.
How is it to be back in this nerazzurri vibe? Because of course we share great memories with you and the time you spent here from 1989 to 1992. A great era for Inter. How has it been? How is it like for you to just breathe the nerazzurri air today?
No, it's always wonderful to connect with Inter and its people, no matter in what way. You know, if you go to a game or if you come to Milano or if you do it through a podcast now, because those years at Inter, changed my life probably forever. Because that experience leaving your home country and going to a place like Milano and then playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world is life changing, and that's what happened to me. I had to learn not only Italian, I had to learn how life works, away from home. And then I started my journeys after Inter. I went to France, to England, back to Germany, again to Italy, and then I ended up in the United States of America. But be connected still today with Inter and its people means a lot to me.
Listen, I know you said it's only 3 years you spent here, but you created like unforgettable memories for everyone. What's your most unforgettable moment that you had here in Black and Blue?
I mean, many unforgettable moments that I shared with my teammates. With obviously our president at those days was Ernesto Pellegrini, who was like a father to me. I learned so much from him. I mean, the people at Inter, it was an education, aside from the football field. And obviously you keep in touch with your former teammates. We have a WhatsApp chat group, that is active every day. And whenever there's a chance to meet up, we go out for dinner and communicate still today constantly with each other. For me, the biggest thing was to understand the magnitude of this club. How big it is, how powerful it is, and that never leaves you. You remain part of this club no matter what you're doing afterwards, after your playing days. And obviously, you like to remember some goals for sure. You remember the UEFA Cup trophy and the successful games or successful moments. But what really remains deep inside of you is other relationships that you built with the people in the past and also the people of today. And that what makes this club so special.
Jürgen, if you don't mind me asking, when I grew up, like you, Matthäus, Bremer, you boys were kind of my heroes, and hence why I'm where I am. But one of the things I remember is your celebrations were always amazing. But that Derby goal that you scored, um, that celebration, you always lived it, didn't you? Like it meant a lot to you when you scored that goal. And I just remembered also as well for me personally, Italian 90 was huge. And it was almost like the Derby della Madonnina with Holland, West Germany. Did it feel like that?
Well, obviously, the derby is one of the most special moments in your career. So as many as you can play, and so some players out there that played so many derbies, like Zio Bergoni, for example, or Walter Zenga, and the guys that stayed for a long, long time at the club. Same for the Milan players. But in those days, obviously, because of the fact that there were only 3 foreign players allowed to play in domestic competitions, and it was 3 Germans with Inter and the 3 Dutch players, fantastic Dutch players with Milan. It became beyond this kind of rivalry between Milan and Inter. It became also the rivalry of Holland against Germany, which culminated in the World Cup 1990, already in the round of 16, unfortunately, because Holland didn't win their group. So they ended up already early in this match with us, and the stadium exploded. It was half-half. It was half orange and half German colors, but obviously the Inter and the AC Milan fans, the Milan fans, they split everything into half. But we were very kind of fortunate in this World Cup because we were allowed to play 5 out of 7 games at San Siro. So besides this game with Holland, we probably had only home games because not only came thousands and thousands of German fans down from Germany, also all the Inter Milan fans were Germany fans, and they created basically a whole atmosphere for us in the group stage already, and then also in the knockout phase with the Holland game 50-50, but then the next game was Czech Republic, where we were 80-20, in our favor. So this tournament turned out to be almost like a home World Cup for us. Obviously, everybody hoped then for the final, Italy against Germany in the very end, but that didn't happen because obviously, unfortunately, Italy lost the semifinal with Argentina. But those were very, very special days, and you have fond memories about those games, and also really wonderful memories with the 3 Dutch players because we all get along very, very well. I was a big friend with Ruud Gullit. We went out for coffees and dinners and hung out on the Lake of Como those days. And and we felt very honored. We felt very special because we were one of those three players that were only allowed to play in the Italian sides. And you needed to be really good to get one of these 3 slots. So you didn't fight necessarily for one of the 11 starting spots. You fought for one of the only 3 foreign spots within these big teams. Napoli had Diego Armando Maradona, obviously, Careca, Alemão.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
And so on. And this was just different times.
You were speaking about the relationship that you had with your teammates back at Inter. I'm in Appiano Gentile right now. Do you remember this place? Appiano Gentile.
Yeah, that's a very, very... Yeah, Appiano Gentile is special because it's like a second home for the players. And also in our days where it was a lot more simple, I would say, not as sophisticated as it is today. But it meant a lot to us. We hung out there. We ate there after every training session, and you hung out on the coffee bar, and afterwards you talked, you chatted with the journalists, and it was like a second home for you. What? Even if I, as a German, to be honest, me as a German, it was always difficult to stay in training camps, to stay in these kind of environments for too long because I was always a person that needed to get out and live a normal life and not hanging too much in hotels or places like Appiano then.
Of course. And do you remember something that you used to do here every single time? I don't know, enter through the gates. Maybe back then they weren't so closed off like it is now. Entering through the gates, maybe walking to the changing room, saying hello. Who was the first person you said hello to when you were here? I'm just something that probably nobody knew even back then.
Well, I'm always kind of a person that wants to know everybody when I go to places, and so when I started to kind of enter Appiano Gentile, I wanted to make sure I know the chef in the kitchen, I know the camerieri and the waiters, I know the groundskeeper who takes care of the grass and all these things. So I was very close with the regulars, with the people that work there. And obviously my coach in those days was Giovanni Trapattoni, who was also like a bit of a father figure he wanted to make sure that you connect, that you obviously study Italian, you start to learn the language. And he made his tours in the rooms. You know, he checked on every player in the afternoons between two training sessions. He walked by and he wanted to check if you take a nap or if you rest. And so you became close to him too. And the funny little story was I always liked to work out in the morning of a game. So when the game is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for example, I wanted to go for a little run, a little jog at in the morning, like 9 o'clock, 9:30, and just to get a little sweat and just to get my body up and going. And Il Mister Trapattoni, he didn't like that. You know, he said, you have to save all your energy for the game. You cannot work out in the morning. I said, it's not a workout, it's just a little jog. I said, no, that's not okay. You cannot do that. So I said, you know what? But I need this. I know my body better. So
Where did you used to go? You used to go around here in the woods?
No, run around the fields, basically.
Okay.
So I asked our chef, you know, when he used to, so tell me, when is the Mister coming in the morning to take his coffee and have breakfast, you know? And he told me, well, he's here sharp at 8:30 in the morning. So I knew that he probably gets up at 8:15, walks over, you know, and has his coffee. So I was now out there at 7:30.
Jürgen, can I ask you one question? I know that Lothar was always quite full on as well. Lothar Matthäus, was he really a part of that team that really pushed people on?
Well, Lothar in those days, you know, when he was at Inter Milan in these years, he emerged to the best player in the world. You know, when we talked about Diego Maradona was on his peak in the '86 World Cup in Mexico City, where also Lothar played there as well. But then it was kind of the period like from 88, 89, 90, 91, when Lothar took over. And he became World Footballer of the Year in 90, obviously, winning also the World Cup with us. But he was just in the prime of his time when he played for Inter. And his dynamic and his leadership and his drive was electrifying, you know, for the team. For me as a player, looking back, you know, we often cross roads. We just saw each other 2 weeks ago in Munich. I played most of my games in professional football alongside Lothar Matthäus. So at Inter, obviously the 3 years, then obviously for more than 10 years in the national team, and also at Bayern Munich. So most of my career I shared with Lothar, and I was very, very fortunate to do that, because he's just such a driven person that never rests, that is always alert, is always want to do the next step, is always curious, you know, what's next in his career and in his life. And I came just along that way. We had our issues with each other. You know, we were not only friends. You know, we had our arguments, especially in the German environment in Bayern Munich. They called that Bayern Munich team FC Hollywood. And then there were some stories that, you know, they were not only fun, you know, they were, shocking sometimes, even in a locker room. So it was not all gold, I would say, but we always, you know, looked each other in the eyes, and then we were just laughing, you know, why are we fighting again? Why are we arguing again? Because we're just two very different characters. Now we are best friends, you know, we talk to each other constantly on the phone. And looking back now, Richard, I mean, I just feel very, very privileged that I had, you know, the best years in my career also when there were the best years of Lothar Matthäus.
Listen, this is very interesting because, of course, if we look at today's Inter, and especially the game I had against Roma, we have our captain probably being back. He's been back at the training. And obviously, the leadership we will mention him about Lothar is something that we are seeing in Lautaro. Ironically, the two names actually are kind of similar, but whatever. What do you think about the impact of Lautaro? I mean, he's not just somebody who can score goals, of course. We're saying about his leadership. And what do you think goes on in terms of chemistry with the other players, with the youngsters, with the new coming up players, for example, P. Esposito?
No, I mean, what I can see from, from far away and obviously on television and here and there when I come to a game at San Siro, that Lautaro has this capability to electrify everybody, around him, and to give advices to the younger players, to pull the older players on his side. And he's doing that by example. He's a fighter. He never gives up. He's driven. He wants to score goals at all costs. And that's why he's the top scorer in the Serie A. And he can never have enough. It's instilled in him. And this is what you need. If you want to, at the end of the day, win trophies and win championships, then you need a leader in your group that everybody respects, that is so driven. And even if he maybe has a bad day once in a while, which we all have, that you get everything out of him in terms of fighting, running, and helping his teammates.
I always look at Lautaro and think that when he partners so many different people, whether it's been 6 or 7 forwards, how difficult is that as a forward to be as good as you were, to be able to interact with so many different people, as a centre forward? Is that really hard, or is that just something that you get on with?
It's something that you get on with. Obviously, some partnerships match better and some don't match, that well. I was very, very fortunate at Inter. In my days, I was with Aldo Serena the first 2 years there, and we had a blind understanding of each other. I mean, I knew exactly what Aldo was doing, where the ball will drop, and I was the one that ran into the spaces. So you have a smell for each other, and a similar relationship I had in the Premier League with Teddy Sheringham at Spurs, or then in the national team, my striking partner was Rudi Völler from Roma. So this blind understanding is something that you figure out very quickly with each other, and some work out better and some not so good. But at the moment, basically Milan stole Aldo Serena from us in '91, and I was then alone up front for my 3rd year with Inter. That's when things fell apart, because you need to have people around you that are on the same wavelength and give you opportunities, and you give them opportunities, and so I ended up in my 3rd year at Inter not having any support basically up front, and it was not successful. And so these partnerships really mean the world to strikers, to forwards. I miss that in today's game often. That you see now teams just playing with one number 9, with one real striker, and then support players over the wings. I do not like that. I like partnerships. I like to see now Pio Esposito growing next to Lautaro or next to Marcus Thuram. Maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe a whole half, maybe from the beginning sometimes. But to grow into these kind of a partnership feeling, and this is very, very important, because he cannot solve the game by himself. He needs help around him. And that's why I still think, these versions of 2 strikers up front, 2 real strikers up front, that are driven by goals, that are driven by, smelling where the ball will drop in the box, and create nightmares then for the opponents. Those partnerships are still very, very valuable, even if you see other teams now in other clubs, not executing the kind of the 2 striker roles the same way.
And you mentioning the fact that at Inter now, today's Inter, there are a lot of partnerships going on up front. What do you think about Kivu's job in being able to bring to the team younger players, Pio Esposito, Angie Boni, who also scored in the reverse fixture against Roma? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think this is how it should be. You should have, obviously, you have a little bit your hierarchy, and then that is led by Lautaro. There's no doubt about it. I think Marcus did extremely well since he joined Inter. A huge amount of energy and can cause nightmares to the defenders from the other teams, But now having Boni and having especially Pio as a very young striker to build over the next couple of years is huge. It's huge. That there's definitely a plan in place by the club, by the coach, And now it's about getting minutes, and games and games and games. And the way he exploded already in his first year is outstanding. I mean, he made it all the way up into the national team and gaining experience in the national team as well. So this is fantastic for Inter to have such a young, talented striker in his roster.
Speaking of young players as well, there is one fellow German who plays here, and is Jan Bisseck. Has been here with us since 2023. What do you think about his progression? Because whereas Pio Esposito sort of exploded, not saying from nowhere, but has had a massive sort of raised the bar immediately. Jan sort of came through a more complicated career and path through injuries, changed several teams. He was also, at one point in his life, was also signing up for studying medicine. What do you think about his progression here?
Now, Bisseck for me is huge. I mean, I would play him in every single game, even if I'm national team coach of Germany. You know, for me, it would be set in stone because he can play as a right back. You know, he can play along the sideline, but he can also play center back. You know, he can score goals. He's fast. You know, and even if he here and there maybe makes a mistake, which we all do and all the players do, it's not a big deal. You know, he moves on with it. It seems to me like he's not kind of falling apart when, you know, something goes wrong.
No, definitely not.
So this means he has a healthy confidence level in himself. You know, he knows what is expected, and he's trying to deliver that in every game. So for me, if I was national team coach still of Germany, you know, it would be a no-brainer to take him with to the United States for the World Cup.
Can I ask one quick question? Just on the basic of Jan Bisseck as well, and Esposito, you were so naturally gifted in the air. Like, your heading ability was fantastic. And do you feel that like it's a lost art almost? Because when I look at Pio, look at Bisseck, I think that from a defensive point of view or an attacking point of view, those boys have it. And you always, I mean, I'll always remember you at Inter, and your aerial ability was massive. Your leap was huge. Do you think it's something that's lost in the game a bit? Do you not see Pio a little bit in you?
Well, one thing is, you know, for some young players, you know, it comes by nature. You know, if I look at Bisseck, if I look at Pio, you know, they have the strength, they can jump, they have a good timing, you know. And for other players, you need to put more work into it. You know, I was not as fast as other players in the very beginning, and I was not jumping as high as other players in the beginning. And I was lucky at the age of 17, 18. My older brother was a track and fielder, a decathlete, and he said to me, "Listen, if you don't train certain things, you know, not getting stronger body-wise and do this and this type of training, you miss out on another opportunity." So I did extra sessions twice a week on speed, on jumping. I from the early stage on, I had a leg press still today in my gym, my personal gym, and I went then within 1 or 2 years, the 100 meters from 12.0 to 11.0. So my speed was not coming by nature; it was coming by work. And the same with jumping up in the air, same, you know. So I kept that always with me. And so I think there's so much you can do as a young athlete nowadays, you know, where you can get an extra edge over your opponents, over your competitors for your position, that, you know, often this is forgotten, because a lot of young players nowadays think, as long as I execute everything my coach tells me day in, day out, I'm going to be a fantastic player. I'm going to be a fantastic athlete. And that's just not the case. I think that, you know, young players need to understand that they can do a lot themselves, you know, and get better in many, many areas, but they have to take the initiative. So great players for me always took the initiative of improving themselves.
Jürgen, of course, this is a lot of wisdom that you've given us. And I think that one little pearl of wisdom we can use from you is the fact that back in the day, and I'm talking about the UEFA Cup that you won against Roma, probably was a totally different side, but now it's crucial again. It's game time now because we've got not many matches until the end of the season. Every point matters, especially now. What do you think the nerazzurri need now to face Roma at this point of the season?
Well, I guess all Interisti, they cannot wait to win that Scudetto. They they probably hope also to win the Coppa Italia as well. So then you have 2 trophies, in your cabinet there, which would be huge, would be fantastic. And there's certainly, above all, a little bit above the clouds is a little bit of disappointment for what happened in the Champions League. There's no doubt about it, because a club like Inter is always aiming for the highest trophy possible, and that is the Champions League trophy. And when this went out of reach, then obviously you go back into your championship, your normal Serie A calendar, and you try to kind of get this done as quickly as possible. So this game with Roma is huge. You want to get the 3 points, and you want to keep Milan away from you, and finish off the season then with the Scudetto, which is always massive. It's always huge. It's big. You have the opportunity with the second leg game against Como to go into the Italian Cup final, the Coppa Italia, which is also a nice trophy to have. So that would round up kind of the season in a very positive way at the end of the day.
My little boy is 7 years old. He's a goalkeeper, Jürgen. Can you give me one little bit of advice for my little boy as a goalkeeper?
Now
Because you were so good.
Now we have to call Walter Zenga, into the Zoom call. Get the advices. Yeah. I mean, Richard, I have a little bit both experiences, because my own son is a goalkeeper, and he's playing in Serie B in Torna. Yeah. And
he's coached by Ashley Cole, who actually played for Roma.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah. And it's the goalkeeper position is a very difficult one, a very tough one, because obviously you can save 10 fantastic shots, and then you get one between your legs, then you are the one that is blamed for losing the game. So I rather do it the other way around. I rather miss 10 chances, but then score the decisive goal in the last minute, and celebrate. So for a goalkeeper, it's very, very important, to be consistent and to be very balanced, positively and negatively, not to take, mistakes too long in your mind, just to move on always to the next situation. And it's a very demanding mental position, psychologically a very demanding position. And I hope your little one, is not getting too frustrated when he gets a couple of goals and concedes them. And you got to make sure that he always looks forward to the next game and the next game. But I think it's also a fascinating position. Obviously, a lot of responsibility on your shoulder. I mean, my son, as a boy at that age, he was an attacking midfielder, and he played really, really well. But then one day he just kind of, maybe because of basketball here in the United States, which he loves to play, he said, I love to catch the balls with my hands. Then he became a goalkeeper eventually.
So, Jürgen, it was such a pleasure to see you here. I hope that soon, maybe, I don't know, do you ever come to Milan or to see some games here at San Siro?
Oh, yeah. Once in a while, I'm there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hope, maybe still this season to see a game.
Yeah, maybe. I hope to see you there. And thank you very much for, first of all, your advice, your wisdom, and for sharing some of very, very interesting insights on the past life of Inter here at Appiano Gentile. Thank you very much, Jürgen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jürgen.
So that was that from Jürgen. I hope you enjoyed it. I imagine this place when he was around here back in the time. I don't know. It's curious that he came here just before everyone else to just go for a run and do a bit of activation. That's all the good vibes we have for today, and hopefully you enjoyed it too. Thank you very much. See you soon.